Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Conversations for Changemakers. We're so excited for you to join us today. My name is Sarah Shaw Meyer, and I am a lifelong Girl Scout, and I'm also lucky enough to be on staff at Girl Scouts River Valleys as the Director of Individual Giving and Corporate Relations. Before we get started, I just want to share a few housekeeping items with everyone. As you may have noticed, everyone is on mute except for the hosts and the presenters today. The webinar is actually being recorded as well and will be able to be viewed on our YouTube channel. So if you do not want your beautiful face recorded on this video, please turn off your camera at this time. You'll see a little camera video and you can push stop recording and it will just show your name. We will have some question and answers option portion at the end of the presentation. So if you have a question, please write it in the chat box. It says chat on there, and then we'll be monitoring those and sharing them at the end of the presentation. It is now my pleasure to turn it over to today's moderator, Gail Hayhurst. Gail is the Vice President of Acquisition Integration at Schwann's Food Company and is our Girl Scouts River Valleys Board Chair. So welcome, Gail.
Thanks, Sarah. Can you hear me? Awesome. I'm very excited today to be part of this program. And wanted to welcome you to today's Change Leader session, where our focus is on leading with passion and finding hope. And as we jump into this engaging topic, I wanted to share some perspectives as I have been reflecting on resilience, passion, and hope, especially given the current situation that we all find ourselves in. We know that leading is a challenge in general, but with such uncertain times, obstacles, and quickly shifting environment, it can make leading even more difficult. In fact, during these times, I think we need to look for inspiration from new places to help us keep going and be the change that we want to see in our world. One thing that I've been focusing on as a leader within Girl Scouts and in my day job is this concept of resilience. You know, what is resilience? The definition of resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. And if we've ever demonstrated that as an organization, it has been right now as we have been faced with such a strange new normal. And as we have pivoted to our new normal, we've also seen our new normal continue to change around us. And resilience is also the ability of a substance or an object to spring back into shape. So as I think about that, I see so much resilience around me every day, you know, from school teachers who are bouncing between new technologies and new risks, but with a deep desire to continue to connect with and support their students, or parents who are literally jumping between being a substitute teacher in their kitchen and doing their day job. And all of us taking things one day at a time, as we just don't know what else 2020 is going to drop on us. And I think that one of the things that's at the core of this concept of resilience sits passion. And passion is that strong and barely containable emotion. And I know sometimes we talk about passion as in terms of love or in terms of relationships. But passion is also a driving force that gets us out of bed every day, ready to face the challenges ahead. It's what drives us to create change and move forward with courage and conviction. And in terms of my work with Girl Scouts, I see the passion in the team, the volunteers, the members, the staff, all of you who have stood fast in their conviction to create our girl leaders of the future, regardless of what 2020 throws at us. I see the passion of supporting our girls through these troubling times by creating a place where girls can still come together as a part of a community and support and grow together, regardless of the circumstances. And I see the passion in the board that I have the privilege to lead as they work hard to identify new ways to support Girl Scouts, to bring new resources, best practices, and counsel to Tish and her team. And tapping that passion and looking to the future with hope, but also confidence that we've got this. And we'll continue to ensure we're teaching our girls in how we all show up every day and being that role model as we think about demonstrating our passion. Isn't that what we want for all of our kids, for our children as well as our girls in our community? Is being able to take the time to find out what is that passion, what is that driving force that really drives your behavior and your actions, and that where you go to extraordinary lengths to make sure that you're giving that your energy and your resources. And that's part of what Girl Scouts does in our communities and with each of our girls, is helping them know who they are and helping them find that passion inside them that will really drive them as we go forward. And that's where I find, one of my visions of hope for the future is really in the faces of our girls. Seeing them shine regardless of the situation, seeing them adapt and teach us how to be nimble and adaptable in these changing times. And seeing them embrace new ways of doing things and creating community, staying connected, and being the leaders of the future. I hope you see this, regardless of your role in supporting these girls. And my desire is for you to find your own path to your passion, be on your own journey of discovery for what gets you up every day. I know that Girl Scouts is part of that, and for that I am very grateful for your support, your leadership, and your partnership for supporting this organization in these unprecedented times, and watching Girl Scouts of River Valleys tap their passion and their resilience to make sure that we have hope for our future. So I'm really excited to participate today. I want to shift gears, and you'll be hearing from our speaker, Dr. Aida Martinez-Freeman. Aida is an equity and inclusion strategist, consultant, keynote speaker, and executive coach dedicated to helping clients maximize their potential and develop creative strategies to positively advance their personal and professional lives. She currently serves as managing director of an association management company in Minneapolis. She's also the founder and CEO of Tana Coaching and Training, a social justice education and leadership development coaching, training, and consulting firm, serving organizations across the United States. She'll be speaking today about leading with passion and finding hope along the way. And with that, I want to thank you, Aida, for joining us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Gail. I appreciate it. Can you hear me? Fantastic. Now I'm going to be sharing my screen, so if you could also let me know if you can see it as well. And thumbs up. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Gail. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for your time today. To those who dare to lead with passion and hope. Whew, we got a lot of that, and Gail touched upon some very critical points. But here's the thing, my beloved Girl Scout community. I want to start by welcoming your presence with joy and with gratitude. And the truth is, I come to you from one of the many epicenters in the struggle for justice, just right outside Minneapolis. I come to you with both a heavy heart and also with a fire ignited that continues to burn inside of me for justice. This fire energizes my desire to serve, to lead, to transform. And I know I've seen that fire in my Girl Scouts. This moment we are in is really at a critical intersection. It is at an intersection of COVID, a public health crisis, food and housing insecurities, unemployment, violence, mobilization, and the awakening of a nation to the structural nature of racism. This is our collective experience. As leaders and change makers, we are being called to take this opportunity and make something amazing out of this moment. My dear Changemakers, we are being presented with this opportunity to join in this collective demand, to answer the call, if you will, to bring radical change. We are bearing witness to years of justice work by so many people before us, by so many people right among us. It's all coming to fruition. It is time to seize the moment and make it transformative. It is time for us to lead with passion and hope. Normally, in times like this, I like to turn to quotes and favorite people that I love to read their books. So you get to have a little bit of that with me today. Black American novelist, poet, and activist James Baldwin invites us to bear witness to this moment in our history. He said, "How can I believe what you say when I see what you do?" Think about that. How can I believe what you say when I see what you do? When we think about the current moment that we're in, what have you bared witness to? What is happening in your immediate communities? What is that impact? And then I'll turn it also to you. Is what you're saying aligning with what you're doing? How do you know? And what actions are you taking, or what actions will you take? That's the work right there, right? We're constantly in this process of aligning our values and our work, what we say and what we do as part of leading with passion and hope. Our ability to pause and reflect critically on our own actions is a critical part of getting on a path to lead with passion and hope. Otherwise, they become just words, empty promises. As a collective, we are witnessing this global pandemic, the rise of an awareness and a virus that has hooked onto existing inequities and continues to put them right on center stage. The truth is, no society comes out of what we are experiencing without being changed. So how will you lead with passion and hope during these critical times? See, to lead with passion and hope is truly a process of active reflection. This learning and unlearning. You can't unsee what you now see or what you will soon see. It is such an awakening of an incredible process, right? Keep in mind that we're all, including our girls, are going to be at different stages of awareness and understanding of these issues. And that where our personal awareness has kicked in around issues related to justice and inequities may not necessarily align with how long these issues have been around systemically or have been in place, how long they've been happening. I love Audre Lorde, poet and activist, who stated, "I am not free while any woman is unfree, even when her shackles are very different from my own." Just sit with that for a moment. I am not free while any woman is unfree, even when her shackles are very different from my own. See, to lead with passion and hope is also daring to engage and nurture this awakening, even if it's uncomfortable. Changemakers, you must lean more now than ever on history, connecting the dots, interdisciplinary work, heart work, community, to continue to get clearer understanding of the issues, of your role as leaders and how we plan to answer the call collectively. It will take some deep work on our end, and it continues to, right? Think of this internal work as tending to a garden, right? I'm sure I have gardeners in this group, right? That's just that it takes a knowing of the soil, of planting the seed, of this patience that comes with it, this knowing and this understanding. Is the same when we're talking about how do we show up in terms of leading with passion and hope with justice and equity and for justice and for equity. So it's important that you understand its history. Understand how you have been socialized. We need to consider how we all have this intersecting identities that provides us with a lens, meaning making, if you will, based on what you know, what you have learned, and from whom you have learned this from. Understand what systems are at play. And this is a hard one, I think, for all of us. Recognize where we have been complicit. Consider that maybe people are not necessarily fully the problem. Maybe there's something wrong, or maybe the system is a problem, right? Just think about the systems and the impact on people. Where is your place to step in and speak up? Where's your place to listen? And how can you respond from an informed perspective? Dare to speak, my dear change makers. What are the words you do not yet have? What do you need to say? Or maybe consider, what are you tolerating or forcing yourself to make your own in silence? Speak. Audre Lorde, who's incredible, and I highly recommend you to read, invites us to do that even if it's at the risk of it being unwelcomed and misunderstood. To lead with passion and hope is to inspire others to action and to help others become their best versions of themselves. That means that as a leader, you must embark on a journey of self-discovery. You must first be able to see yourself before you're able to authentically reflect that version of your best self to others. I personally don't believe human beings are broken. You're not broken. The girls are not broken. Systems are. Yet we tend to have a society that tends to blame individuals, judge them, punish them, while the systems reflect back like a mirror a vision of brokenness and deficit, awkwardness, incompetence, hate, fear. To be grounded in passion and hope means to strive to become keenly aware of the systems of power, privilege, and oppression, and how they impact others in our community. You have to afford that same level of passion and hope to yourself. I always tell people, so remember, someone has been patient with you as you were in the beginning stages of knowing or of your awakening. Now is your turn to be patient with others, to hold space as long as it does not cause harm or contribute to someone else's oppression. I have a dear friend, Dr. Joy Lewis, that always reminds us that we are getting practiced at it. We're not always going to get it right, but we keep getting practiced at it. That is what happens with leadership. We keep getting practiced at it. Passion is infectious. It's an essential ingredient of an ongoing practice of serving humanity, of seeing you and others as beautifully imperfect and worthy of people's times and attention and interest. It unveils what drives you to transport others. We have, of course, Nelson Mandela. I had to do it. He tells us that there is no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that is less than one you are capable of living. And so in regards to leadership, that's the same sentiment. It applies. And see, passion for justice without compromise is the fuel behind all great leaders. Dr. Angela Davis, who's an activist, also gives us an amazing quote. She reminds us, this is so good for this times, that says, I'm no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I'm changing the things I cannot accept. So then now I ask you, what can you no longer accept? Leading with passion and hope requires you to really listen to not just the words being spoken, but the emotions, the pain, the worry, the fears, their humanness, and to meet people right there. It requires us to dare to be stretched, to no matter the challenge ahead, to stay grounded in your gifts with an openness to grow, to transgress, and be transformed. It requires us to stay humble, to be okay not knowing, to not having the answers, to saying that you're sorry and actually follow that apology with true action. It means that to lead with passion and hope, you must not be shaken by criticism, by labels, and must be open to go against if it goes towards justice. It requires us to be fearless. Leading with passion and hope is a process of human empowerment, which the Girl Scouts do a lot of. It is, like Dr. Angela Davis also tells us, we must learn to lift as we climb. We must stay laser focused. Laser focus. We have too many things that are getting in the way and clouding, not giving us the right clear view. Stay laser focused. Be focused on what is possible at all times, not what's impossible. Act as if it were possible to radically transform the world. And you have to do it all of the time. So here's 3 questions that I have for you to take with you and to really consider. Ask yourself, does my leadership cause others to experience personal and professional growth? Does my leadership inspire action and hope for community? Does my team or my troop reflect back passion and hope in action? Dear Changemakers, to lead with passion and hope requires a critical ingredient: radical love. Bell Hooks, who's an African-American writer, really helps us understand that it's radical love really for humanity, community, and for justice. And she says, the moment we choose to love, we begin to move against domination and against oppression. The moment we choose to love, we begin to move towards freedom, to act in ways that liberate ourselves and others. That action is the testimony of love as a practice of freedom. I know we just recently celebrated the 57th anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s March on Washington, D.C. and his I Have a Dream speech. Talk about an example of leading with passion, with hope, and with radical love. Dr. King and the many warriors for justice, I think of Representative John Lewis, for example, radically loved us, and they radically loved this nation so much that They organized around labor movements. They fought against unequal housing, abusive power of the criminal justice system. And they did that with radical love on all fronts, right? We think about the conditions in which we're in right now. Back then, with that, just with that movement, from 1955 to April of 1968, they have gone through 12 years plus of intense protests. And during that time, they achieved the 24th Amendment, which banned the use of poll taxes to block people from voting. Sounds familiar? New judicial interpretations that restored full power to the 14th and 15th Amendment, the 1964, 65, and 68 Civil Rights Act. That's one of the ways in which they showed the radical love, this radical love of self, community, and humanity. In our society and in our current condition, let's be honest, we are really struggling having a powerful discourse on radical love. See, it is in this absence of radical love that points to the failure of our collective to acknowledge the needs of our spirits over material needs. Without an ethic of radical love shaping our present and future, we are often seduced by fear, power, resentment over those we perceive or are being told they are the other or the enemy. Dr. King's radical love and the love of so many others that have been on the front lines and his ethic to lead with passion and hope really guided all aspects in terms of this nonviolent engagements they were on. It guided his stand on Vietnam, on the poor, his organizing unions. See, he's loved now, but he was hated then. Think about how we're responding even to the current movements. When people began to feel and understand the power of radical love, they do begin uniting across differences. They begin to, across difference, call attention to things like police brutality, calling on accountability for government officials. They filled buses. They push and organize against oppressive laws. Radical love reminds us of what Frederick Douglass said, which he said, freedom is not given, it is won. And it is won by passion, hope, by love. It is won by action. It is won by staying informed. It is won by investing in each other and our communities. It is won in knowing that it is about the we and the us. It is won by courageously leading with passion, hope, and radical love. See, what we're seeing on the streets is also an ethic of love, is also love in public. You're bearing witness to also the pain, despair, loss, anger, fear, oppression. But you're also being witness to neighbors helping each other. I think of the many people that went and hit the streets in Minneapolis to clean South Minneapolis after the uprising. Radical love must be reclaimed. It must be reclaimed as an organizing and leadership principle. It is our reasons for being a part of a community, and it must be unconditional and undeterred. Radical love is not about replicating the structures of power, hierarchy, divisiveness, exclusion, and the dehumanization that we have in our current climate. Radical love does, however, invite us into some good necessary trouble. Does that sound familiar? We love getting into some, I love getting into some necessary trouble. I will leave you with this. In 1955, Dr. King said in a sermon this: "So this morning, as I look into your eyes and I look into the eyes of all of my brothers in Alabama and all over America and over the world, I say to you, I love you. I would rather die than hate you. Think about that. Representative John Lewis leaves us with some powerful words. Do not get lost in the sea of despair, right? Do not be bitter or hostile. Be hopeful and optimistic, right? Be the light. Be the light. And sometimes we need to be reminded that community in and of itself is an act of resistance. And so the Girl Scouts get in their community, get to be able to not only lead with passion and hope, but you have that fire in you to do that radical love that is so needed. We need to be reminded of our ability to love and care for each other. So my dear change makers, who dare to lead with passion and hope, let's get to it. We got work to do. We have justice, and we have the survival of our democracy that's awaiting for us. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope it inspired you, and I look forward to seeing you out in the streets showing some radical love.
Thank you so much for those inspiring words. You just truly motivated me, and I'm sure the rest of the team, to think about how we can show radical love and inspire our future generations to do the same. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I have a couple of questions that came in during your talk, so I'll just read them here. Let me go back to it. So Maddie asked, do you have any recommendations for staying hopeful while doing this work?
Well, I think it's challenging, right? Everything around us is pushing us in different directions. And we certainly will have our moments in which it's just going to be hard to be able to see, right? I mean, we just have to be honest about kind of what we're experiencing. The key piece about staying hopeful is also to know history, to know that history has had its ebbs and flows, that just as we have seen moments like this that have been hard on our nation, that have been hard in our communities, we also have seen the rise of the best of us. We also have seen critical community work that have shifted our society to serve others. So I think staying grounded in the ebbs and flows of history, and to understand that even as challenging as these times can be, we are also seeing some very necessary changes. We're also seeing people mobilize in ways we hadn't seen in a while. And most importantly, the diversity of people coming together, passionately making sure that we stay close to the democratic principles is inspirational. And so how to continue to stay hopeful? Pay attention to those, right? Watch what you're paying attention to in social media. See the good things that are coming, and those things that we're seeing in front of us, know that that is very serious. What do we learn from it? And take it to the streets. I think that's the best work. Being able to be in community should keep us hopeful.
Alyssa, okay, thank you for that. Alyssa asks, do you have any resources for sharing with girls to start these types of conversations, or a podcast, or
Sure.
young adult book or something?
Yeah, of course. Of course. There's a lot, right? That depending on their age that they're trying to make sense of, and that we need to make sure that it's age appropriate. I have some resources that I can certainly send your way. So if you want to share it widely with the group, that would be great. I also try to keep on my Taina Coaching and Training Facebook page, like an ongoing set of like opportunities for growth, resources. It's more kind of a resource page. So in case you're interested in that as well, know that. Sarah, if it's okay, or with Gail, I'll be happy to work with you to get some resources out.
Yeah, we'll when we send out the email recap, we'll make sure that we add those to it.
Sure. Yeah.
For everyone.
Sounds good.
And then Valerie had a question. How do we open conversation to help girls and us understand systematic issues and not make them or take them personal?
Yeah, I think you can, depending on their age, right? I mean, that would be an important question to be had. So if we have older Girl Scouts, I think the question is, for me, would be like, how did inequities came to be, right? And see what they say. How do we understand that to happen, right? I think that's through some reflection questions that focuses us more on curiosity, right? Oftentimes help a lot to be able to really engage on the question of how are you seeing it and how are you making meaning of it, and then being able to come into the conversation maybe with some resources, some food for thought for them to consider. Again, it just really depends on their particular age group of how would I approach it. But I think a good question of like, how does inequities came to be? It's always a good one to unpack.
Sarah, you're on mute.
Yep, got it. I think that wraps up the questions. Again, thank you so much. I want to turn it over to Gail to kind of do some closing remarks here. So again, thank you for the inspirational and informational conversations for Changemakers.
Sure.
Truly appreciate it.
Thank you all so much.